And I actually have a paper that I've started working on with a couple other people where we're looking at the costs and benefits of SOX somewhat generally and sort of how those have evolved over time. And so we have a lot of early research where we know that there were some heavy costs put in place. Audit fees massively increased, right? You've got a whole system in place now where you have to audit internal controls, right? Well, this was a huge cost for companies. It was a huge cost for firms, although firms ended up making quite a bit of money in doing this. But what we've tried to do in this study is actually look at, okay, so we've got these initial audit costs. How do those costs change over time? Something that hasn't been looked at as much is the idea of internal costs, right? So we've done a few things to try to estimate what the internal cost of SOX compliance is for a company, which is massive. And we estimate it to be similar to the audit cost, actually, the increase that people have seen, and sort of look at how those evolve over time. And what we find in total, right, is there's a massive cost involved. And those costs sort of were really high when we started out, and then they sort of decreased across time. And then about 2010, we saw another spike where it went back to the original levels of costs. And what we believe is happening there is that this is where the PCAOB sort of had a renewed emphasis on internal control audits. And so when that became a point of focus from regulators, then companies and auditors responded accordingly, right, to re-emphasize these things. And so then what we do after that is we say, okay, well, we've got these costs measured and estimated, and we can see how they evolve. Let's see what happens from a benefits perspective. When I say benefits, I recognize there can be a broad spectrum of potential benefits, right? So when we say that, we're sort of focused on this idea of financial reporting benefits because that's, to us, what this is directly supposed to, sort of affect. So the idea being that, well, if you have, you're spending this money, but you have better internal controls, therefore you're less likely to end up misstating your financial statements, which benefits investors in the longer run. But interestingly, we actually don't find much of a benefit. So we've got a lot of costs. There's lots of reasons we might not find a benefit, but we measure benefits in a few different ways. We don't actually find that there's much of a benefit that was associated with that cost. And so if you were to ask me just, again, as an academic looking at the evidence I have, right, I would say there's a substantial cost that was incurred by these companies, and it's not clear how much that helped investors. Again, recognizing there's all kinds of other ways in which there could have been benefits or things like that. But yeah, in that case, the costs don't seem to really justify the benefits.